Okay, so I recently got this old Yamaha amplifier and it's not turning on. So in this video we're going to have a look at what's wrong with it and see if we can repair it. So on the front we have our headphone jack. We've still got our RCA video, left, right and portable headphone, I think, inputs, yeah. So this is the RX V459. It's in slightly rough condition but still usable. It has some cinema DSP with DTS and Dolby and all that stuff. And yeah, I'm hoping I can get this thing fixed. So at the back, the process is quite simple. It doesn't have HDMI, it only has some of these older inputs, but you've got quite a few of them. Old RCA jacks. In South Africa we use the PAL system and not the one the US uses. The thing I'm most interested in is the digital inputs, because that's probably what I'm going to be using for my system. It has a serial interface here that you can interface with the amp with. So I'm going to see if I can build some nice Arduino thing to control it with my phone or something. Some switch power sockets so you can plug your DVD player or whatever into it. And you've got 6.1 channels here, which is quite nice. Got your front, left and right speakers, your A and B. You can't really see it on screen, but the top ones are A, the bottom ones are B. And then you have your surround, you have your left, right, your center and your back speaker. It's a 6.1 system, not a 7.1 system, which is slightly strange. And you've got your FM input over here. So I've already been inside this device. I didn't really have my camera on hand, but yeah, let's open it up. Okay, so since I've already been inside this thing, I'm just going to remove the back cover. And this is the inside of it. So this is the view from the top. This is our processor board. This is some analog board. All your inputs come in here, or well, all your analog inputs go into this board. It gets buffered a bit, and then it goes over this ribbon cable to this board, and then it gets processed here. At the back, you've got a big transformer. Yamaha, for some reason, don't like to use toroidal transformers. They just use normal transformers. Here at the back, you've got your heatsink, and then you've got your front panel board for the LCD and stuff. Okay, so I'm just going to remove this ribbon cable because it's obstructing our view. So on the processor board, this is the main processor. It commands the front LCD and yeah, it triggers the relays and stuff. Then below that we've got our cinema DSP chip. That is from Texas Instruments with the appropriate RAM and memory or whatever it needs. Then over here we have the LC8905. This is the chip that handles the SPDIF inputs. Then just slightly above that we've got a Burr Brown analog to digital converter, and all these small chips also do something that I'm not really aware of. Don't really know what this thing does. Over here is our digital to analog converter. So that's pretty much all that's happening on this board. So in case you're wondering, we removed the ribbon cable here that goes to the front. This one that's missing here is part of this board. This is the component video board that connectors were missing from the back. It's nothing special, it's just a board with a bunch of interconnects. On the bottom it has some chips for switching. Not really going to go into that because it's not really important. I couldn't really care less if the video functionality on this thing ever worked again or not. So like I said earlier, this thing has a serial port that goes to the back. So hopefully if we can get this thing working, I can interface it with like an ESP8266 or something and control it with my phone. That would be pretty cool. There's your RX and TX and reset and ground and all the stuff that you need. So let's see what happens when you plug this thing in. Okay, so the thing is actually plugged in at the moment, and when I press the power button nothing happens. Let's make sure this thing's on AC. Yet when I probe the power connector, you see that there is actually power. So when I probe the thing, we see that there is actually power, and it's not triggering. When I turn it on, it doesn't want to trigger the relays to turn on the main device. Okay, so one of the first things I want to check is that this thing actually has power. Like the amp generally has some standby power that goes to the processor or some circuitry just to keep it going enough for when people actually press the power button, and it has a bigger relay that will turn on the rest of the electronics. So first let's see if we have any power at all. Something there. No, dead. Okay, so we've got some voltage over there. That's promising. Okay, we've got 0.5 volts, that's good. Now I'm measuring with reference to the chassis ground, but that doesn't mean that there aren't any other voltages on the system. Okay, so those connectors didn't show much, except 10 volts I guess. 10 volts, nothing. Here's 5.22 volts, okay. And here's 5 volts. Okay, that tells me that the processor board is definitely getting some power, and it's just refusing to turn on. So this is the connector that goes to the front panel. Let's see if there's voltage on that, because one of those pins will probably connect to the front switch. So the third pin on this connector is labeled plus 5S. You can have a look at that now. First pin is just less than 1 volt. Don't know what that pin does. This one has 5 volts. Perfect for some TTL logic. Next one that's labeled plus 5M. Also has 5 volts. Okay, I'm not going to go through all of them, there is power on the circuit. So now let's figure out if the front panel's switch is broken. Okay, so I'm just setting my multimeter to continuity mode. So these two pins are the pins that connect to the power switch. Let's see what happens when they get probed. Okay, so the switch is definitely working. Now we need to look at something else. So luckily Yamaha was nice enough to write a proper service manual for this thing. And someone found it online, I don't know, I'll have the link in the description. It has a lot of information. Apparently this amp came in many different models with like your Australian plugs, I think this is one I have, possibly US plugs. Whatever other plugs exist, and all the different remotes and stuff that they sent with the device. There's a lot of information on this thing, quite a lot. If you scroll down, here's a small data sheet for the main processor. Yes, this is the main processor, we can have a look at that now. If you go down, this is the SPDIF input chip. Go more down, get like nice diagrams of what all the components look like. And then you get your video block diagram, which is quite nice. They've got a lot of diagrams here. Everything from your input selection to your digital to analog conversion, analog to digital conversion, your main output amplifiers, all of this is here exactly the way you'd want it, and this is for the video. This is a control block diagram. This is the one we're specifically interested in. If I zoom in, you can see here, this is the main transformer. This is the main transformer. There's a primary winding, so secondary windings, and then it has a small winding over here, which generates 3.5 volts, which generates a 5.3 volt supply, which is the standby power supply that we saw earlier. And is there anything else? No, not really. So this device uses a 16 megahertz crystal or oscillator. And is there anything else that this thing does that's actually important? Yes, main power switching. That is what this thing does, and that's what it's not doing at the moment. So let's see and have a look at how it works. Sorry, small correction. From the plug, there's a secondary transformer that is used to create a 5.5 volt supply that is then used for the 5BU, 5M and 5S supply. And this bottom one is connected to the relay, this bottom one is just connected to the relay for power saving, I guess, as it says here. So this supply, which is separate from the big transformer, this is a small transformer, this is a big transformer, that provides your standby power. This thing also has the PCBs and the layouts of that, of all the different boards. It has basically all the information you'd probably want. Now this is the page that I'm actually interested in. This is the one for the main processor, because for some reason it's not turning on the big transformer. So what's nice about this service manual is this is the processor with all its pins, and you probably can't see it on the video, but it has these pink numbers that indicate the voltages that should be on the pins if you measure it with a multimeter. So now I'm just going to go through and measure those. Okay, so something interesting that I saw on the data sheet is at the top of the thing, it has these two scope shots. Let me zoom in. Which the one is the 16 megahertz signal from the oscillator. That's a clock of the processor. And the other one is what it should do when it actually turns on. So first we're going to measure this with the scope to see if we actually get that, because this processor should be on the entire time. So let's have a look. So it clearly labels point A2 as the one pin that goes towards the crystal oscillator. So let's get the scope and measure that. Okay, let's just make sure everything works. So the 5 volt rail, or the 5M rail, has a constant 5 volts on it. Try to turn it on, nothing happens. So let's probe this oscillator. Okay, so I'm currently on the pin A1 that they want us to measure, and it is flatlining. That should be an oscillation. Let me measure the center pin. nothing, and on the other pin also nothing. Yeah, we should be seeing 16 megahertz oscillation on this thing, which we're not. So let's replace that part and see if that fixes the problem. So the board itself isn't actually that big, and the oscillator is this blue thing over here. We'll have a close look at it now. So this is the main processor, and this is the oscillator that we're going to replace. It's quite close and fine, so hopefully it's going to be a success. This is the new part that I got, slightly bigger than the old one. Yeah, let's replace it. So I installed a new oscillator, and hopefully the board will work now, or at least be in a better shape than it was. Okay, so I installed a new oscillator over here, and let's see if it actually works when I plug it in. Okay, 5.3 volts, so there. And A1 pin is still not oscillating, even though I installed a new processor, a new oscillator. Okay, so that was not the issue. Okay, so after watching this video of the EV blog repairing a similar amplifier, I'm going to try and replace this capacitor. I didn't think this was an issue on my unit, since the 3.5 volts, sorry, the 5.3 volt rail was actually there, but I realized that my amp is having exactly the same issue as they are having, and this board, even though on his unit it is sideways, it's the same actual circuit board as the one installed on my unit. So just get proper focus. So yeah, that's probably not in focus, but the culprit is apparently this capacitor. So I'm gonna replace that with, I don't actually have the exact one on hand, but I have a 33 nanofarad high voltage cap from this random project board from a guy who did his final year project last year, and I'm just gonna use that and see if it works. Okay, so this is a power supply board. This is the connector that goes to the processor board that turns on the relay. It's the switched outputs, and apparently it's this small cap over here that's the issue, so let's replace it. Okay, so like I said, the new cap should be 33 nanofarad. Let's measure that it is. Yeah, more or less correct. And the old one should be 22 nanofarad. And it's not picking it up. It's picking up some capacitance, but definitely not 22 nanofarad. Okay, so this might actually be the problem. Okay, so the new cap is in. It's over here, so you can't really see it. I don't really know if this is going to work, because this cap isn't really rated for 200, 300, 600 volts. It's just some random one I got off an old board, and it's also not even the right capacitance, but it's probably better than the old one, so let's see what happens. And plug it in. I heard something, I heard a relay click. And nothing. Lovely. Okay, so I don't know if I was being stupid or not, but I think this ribbon cable was plugging to this one, which is the wrong one. I don't know, I'll look at the footage now. But now I have the benefit of it actually turning on. We remove the camera. and the buttons work, the volume works. This is perfect. So the only thing left is to reinstall that video board and then to connect it to some speakers and listen to some music. Okay, so I finally figured out how to set this thing up using my 2 speakers and subwoofer, and I like the way it sounds, and it actually goes quite loud. I can't play it for too long because YouTube's copyright algorithm will ban the video. So yeah, if you enjoyed this video, thanks for watching, and subscribe and like and all those things, and have a good day.